Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Minds Behind True Crime with Dr. Vona. Hopefully, people start coming in. If not, we just tape this and hopefully, people watch it on the replay. I was up last night after we did the live stream. I was up till 7 o'clock this morning researching this case because I'm just fascinated by the family dynamics. I've talked a lot on this channel about familicide. So it just has a lot of recurring themes that I am, and identity. Identity is what all my research is in. So I feel as though this case is important because right from the beginning, before I knew any of the facts, the very first thing I said was, you guys, I feel like this is a case of identity, or the lack thereof, rather. It's also a case of mental illness. It's a case of substance abuse. It's a case of family dynamics. There's just so many things that I have an expertise in that are related to this case that I would be doing a disservice if I didn't, educate the public about the things that I know, answer questions that people may have. And, if psychology and true crime is your thing, please hit subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. I'm a small content creator, so this could help get me out there. And I do appreciate that. So, what are some of the facts here? We know that Rob Reiner and Michelle Reiner, 78 and 70, were found dead on December 14, 2025 at their Brentwood home in Los Angeles. The Los Angeles County Medical Examiner ruled the deaths homicide, and the cause was listed as multiple sharp force injuries. Okay, so we know that their son, Nick, who's 32 years old, see, this is a thing I keep hearing when people talk about him in the media as their child, their son, he is their son, he is their child. I'm 47, I'm still my mom's child. However, I think he looks very young. And I want people to be reminded that he is a 32-year-old man. He's not like a lot of times we see people, around 28 ish. And this isn't that far off, but 24 to 28. And, he's a 32-year-old man. So I think it's important to note that. He was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. He's being held without bail, which I don't know if anybody remembered in the very beginning when we first got the bail hearing. I think it was reported that he got bail for $400,000. That was taken away, and he's being held without bail. His first court appearance was yesterday, and it was continued. So they decided to continue the plea until January 7th. And the only thing Nick had to answer to was the judge asked if he was waiving his right to a speedy trial, at which he says yes. The media wasn't allowed to take pictures of Nick in the courtroom, so that's why we don't see any pictures of him, but we do see a stenographer, not a stenographer, I'm sorry. We see an artist drew a picture. I said stenographer. Ignore that part. But we have somebody drawing pictures of him in the courtroom, and he's wearing somebody that wants to take their own life vest. So that, and I think that that's important to note as well. So we know that there's mental illness going on there as far as in the moment him feeling like he wants to take his own life. That's a big deal. There's also a reported case of substance abuse and addiction. There's also reports of alleged schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, which it's also been allegedly reported that he's not taking his medication at this point. So we're going to get into that a little bit today. So this shouldn't be too long of a live. I just wanted to make sure that I touch upon some of these things, and I'm going to continue to do so as time goes on, because I really do think that this case has a lot of information that everyone in the general public, no matter your race, gender, socioeconomic status, any of the things, I feel like this just touches everyone. So I think that that's also important to note. So on December 14th, 2025, on Sunday, the bodies were discovered at the Brentwood residence and the LAPD investigation began. Later that night, Michelle Obama was on one of the talk shows and reported that her and Barack were supposed to have dinner with the couple on Sunday night. So I thought that was interesting. He was arrested that same day, so later on in the day on Sunday, and police indicate that he was held without bail. Hi, Laura. How are you? Hi, Kim. Welcome, you guys. Yes, Florida in the house. Love it. Come on in. Welcome, please. Welcome. So we know that the medical examiner, I already said this, but there was the cause of death is sharp force injuries. And we know specifically that there was a knife used. So the state confirms some of the facts. So the victims, the date found, location, medical examiner's finding, arrest charges, those particular things. They're the things that we know as of right now. Oh, hold on, my notes just froze. 1 second, you guys. All right, here we go. I did a PowerPoint, you guys, and I'm just seeing if I can pull the PowerPoint up because I'm like, meanwhile, I'm doing notes and I should have the PowerPoint up for you guys to view that. But we're also going to view an audio. So last night when I was doing research, like literally throughout the entire night, one of the things that I listened to was Nick was on a podcast called Dopey. And the podcast decided to put out a compilation. That's the word I'm looking for. A compilation of Nick on their show. So I do think that it is important to let you guys hear that. There's a few things that I found really interesting. A lot of things that I already said that I was thinking were the case are 100%, in my opinion, the case. So I found, evidence to back up some of the things that I was saying, and I thought that that was important, and I wanted to make sure that I brought that to you guys tonight. I also watched, I could have died. I watched the Behavior Bureau. So if you guys don't know who that is, I'm sure everybody knows who the Behavior Bureau is, but please go check out the Behavior Bureau. And I was like watching them like, oh my gosh, look at that. Like they were the exact things that I was saying. So you guys should go check that out. And if you checked out my live, you'll see that the things that I was saying last night that I was not guessing, but that I was speculating based off of my education and experience, in fact, are the same things that the Behavior Bureau picked up on. So I thought that that was interesting as well. All right. So with Army Vet, what's up? Hey, Jane. Hey, DDWM. Hi, you guys. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. This is amazing. So I am pulling up the slides for us right now. I would do it the way that I do sometimes, but this time I'm going to do it a little bit different, and I'm going to do it the way I did that one day and pull it up through here. Let's see what happens. Here we go. It's coming up. 1 sec. It's processing. I'm going to switch it over to this as well. All right, here we go. Hi, Explore Core. Welcome in, you guys. This is amazing. Welcome in. Please hit subscribe and like and all the things. I appreciate you. I don't know why this is taking a minute. Oh, here we go. Add to stage. Oh, wait, let me make that bigger. Okay, here we go. All right, so let me pull up my notes nice and big. Okay. Come on. Why is this being a pain in the butt? Okay, so tonight we're going to cover the Nick Reiner case, what we know, what we don't know, and why the timeline matters. So we are going to discuss allegations. These are Nick has the presumption of innocence, and I want to make sure that we avoid like writing anything disrespectful in the comments. However, I do think that this is an opportunity to learn about behavior when it comes to addiction and mental health and family matters, and how we'll see. I'll show you. I'll explain it further in a minute. So here we go. So there's no armchair diagnosis here. I am not diagnosing. I'm going off of alleged information that's been out there in the media. So this is all alleged. Okay, so our next thing here is we know that we start with what's confirmed, which I already kind of did, but misinformation spreads quickly. And this is what I did my dissertation research on. So I want to make sure that disinformation is not what's getting out there. So I just put the ages of the victims over here and told you where they were, found deceased. We know that the daughter went in after the massage therapist was knocking on the door and wasn't getting any answer. Hi, Cuff You. Sorry for pulling this on you last minute, Cuff You. You're the best. Cuff You is literally like amazing. I can't even tell you. All of my mods are, but thank you, Cuff You, for just jumping in all the time last minute. So Nick Reiner remains in custody without bail. I have that up there. That's not what I meant to say, though. So we just want to make sure that we get the facts straight. All right, so let's move to the next slide here. And you guys, I changed my slides a little bit. They're usually like very pale and I don't know. So I tried to, spice it up a little bit. So here we go. So let's talk, you guys. So let's walk through the timeline a little bit. There's more people coming in. This is just a little bit of the timeline from Sunday, later on Sunday. So Sunday, the bodies were discovered by the daughter, who goes over after the massage therapist doesn't get an answer, knocking on the door for their appointment. The daughter lives across the street, and the massage therapist goes over there and says, "I'm here for your parents' appointment. They're not answering the door." I wonder, I guess she was saying, do you know where they're at? Are they here? Whatever the case may be. So the daughter says, here, let's go, and goes over there to see what's going on. And that's where she discovers her dad in that brutal scene. She did not see her mom, according to reports. So she runs out of the house, which anyone would do, right? Who knows if the perpetrator's still there. So and that's, a horrifying scene. So she runs out of the house and calls 911. And it's not until the investigators come and the paramedics where they tell her that the mom was also in the house, deceased. That must have been so horrible. I also heard that she called Billy Crystal second, after she called the police, because they were best friends and he lives very close and was able to get over there. And according to reports, he viewed the deceased before they were taken. Hi, Jane. Hi, Boston Mom. Hi. Come on in, you guys. Welcome. On December 16th, on Tuesday, they charged him with the 2 degrees of first-degree murder. I think it's also interesting that they're talking about how they haven't decided if this is a DP case or not, because I was like, wait a minute, I thought California doesn't have that anymore. And then I looked into it, and it's not that they don't have the DP. They do have it. It's just that Gavin Newsom put, what's it called, a moratorium or something, saying that while he's in office, that he was putting a pause on it, pretty much. So they still can go for that. And I didn't realize that until I was doing my research. And you guys, I researched till 8 o'clock this morning. I even wrote on my YouTube, in comments, I was like, I'm still awake, you guys, from doing this. I was answering comments back. It was crazy. I did so much research on this. On the 17th, the first court appearance, but there was no plea, and it was continued to the 7th of January. And then on the 18th, the medical examiner releases the official cause of death, which is sharp force injury. We saw that also in the Idaho cases, right? So we've seen that there as well, where it says sharp, where sometimes we'll see blunt force injury. This one says sharp force injury. The next slide. So here, there are the special circumstances. I jumped ahead a little soon in the last slide, but this is what I was talking about over here, the DP, and that it's eligible, and that the maximum penalty discussed publicly is life without parole, or putting him, taking his life, not his own life, the state taking his life. Prosecutors have not finalized that decision. I did hear one of the reporters asking if they take the family's input into consideration, and they said that they do. So I wonder how that's going to play a role in this case. Welcome in, you guys. Oh, we have Canada. I love when you guys tell me where you're from. So please feel free to tell us where you're from. I think it's amazing. It reminds me that not everybody's like in Pennsylvania or New Jersey, and that there are people. I obviously know that. But I mean, you sometimes get so into your daily schedule that I just assume that everybody's in the United States. So when I see that people are from Canada, New Zealand, I'm like, what is happening? My next biggest following is in Canada, and then after that it's South Africa. So welcome in my family. Come on in and be part of the family. So we know here, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so over here we have the court update on December 17th. He did not enter the plea. We know that. We know that the council needs to do discovery. I don't know if anybody saw Bryan yesterday, but he has video of, does anybody remember the defense attorney's name? It's like on the tip of my tongue. Alan Jackson. That's it. I have really good memory. I just have to sometimes think because I have ADHD. But they have video of him going into the house because the house has been released, meaning that all of the DNA stuff has been done. All of the crime scene investigation, all of that has been thoroughly, exhausted. And now they give the house back to the family. The thing that's sad about this, and I don't know how it is in California, I'm assuming it's similar, in most places, but my aunt took her own life, and they come and they take the body, but they don't come in and clean it up for you. So once it's released back to the family, it's up to the family. Nowadays, I think there's like crime scene cleanup people that you can hire to come out, and hopefully that's what they would do. But I'll never forget my dad and my uncle had to like clean up, and it was terrible. That had to be horrible for them. So yes, they needed a medical clearance, which is why he wasn't there the first day. So the first day, Alan Jackson thought that he would be there, but he wasn't cleared medically. We don't know if that was physically, medically, mentally, medically, both. So, you go through a whole evaluation process, and they have to deem you competent pretty much. Let's see. Yes, a defendant's mental health can play a huge role at trial. So will this be good or bad for this case? So it depends on which way you're looking at it. So if you're looking at it on the side of getting justice for the parents, maybe not. But if you're looking at it on the side of psychosis, you know what I mean? I think it really depends. And just because, I think we have to keep in mind that if we do find here that he was psychotic at the time, and we don't know that, there are, they don't just let you go home. You still go to a place where you are removed from society, but you're taken care of more in a medical sense as opposed to a punitive sense. What do you guys think? Do you guys think so far, from what you know today and this moment, if you had to make the decision on whether this was something that should be handled in like a mental health type way, like a mental health facility, or in a punitive way as far as the outcome? So not whether you believe it's mental health, you could believe it's mental health, but the way it should be dealt with. So what does justice look like? Is it him staying in a mental health facility for the rest of his life, or in jail? That's what I'm asking. Okay, Army vet, I am so glad you found us. Okay, all right, so let's keep going. After the next slide, I'm going to take a break from our slides, and I'm going to go over to the audio that I told you about that I wanted you guys to hear, because there was so much that I heard in that audio that I was like, wow, coming right from Nick's mouth. So let's talk about what is not confirmed yet. So there are many unknowns. One of the things that we can't do is fill in the blanks with our own speculation. Now we can speculate, right? And we can say that when we see this in different cases or with different human behavior, this is what we usually see, but we obviously can't say that this is definitely what we're seeing here. Although I have found so many, I think, interesting things as far as insight into this person's psyche. I found a lot, you guys. And again, if you were here last night or, prior, I'm going to remove that from the stage because I'm going to be adding the Dopey. Dopey is the name of the podcast that Nick was on. And this podcast is created by two people that are in recovery. And well, you'll hear some of it yourself. And if anybody has any questions about it, just ask me. I did listen to the whole thing. There's one part that I want to start with that I think is so important, because one of the very first things I said about this case was, I think this is going to have something to do with identity or the lack thereof. And you'll see, you guys, everything that I said last night was validated when I did my research, which just made me feel even stronger that I needed to cover this. Okay, so let's look at this right quick. So again, this is coming, I was going to say I have to add it to the stage, but it's right there. So this is coming directly from the Dopey podcast. There's a YouTube channel. I will put the link in the description if I haven't already, so that people could find this after our live stream. But we're going to listen to this first part, you guys, and I want you to listen up, because, well, listen up and then we'll talk about it.
The movie is about his, incredibly dark journey through Hollywood, writing this sitcom, shooting dope. And like, one of the things about it that caught my attention, he would go to fucking Burbank or wherever he was working, and he'd be writing episodes of Alf, and then he's all strung out and crazy, and then he would go downtown to like some Mexican woman's apartment where he would like shoot dope with her and hang out with her and her kids. And me and Chris,
now that I'm just hearing the first person, so Chris is one of the podcast, the host of the podcast, and this other person talking, I apologize, I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but this is the other podcaster. So they're setting up a question here that they ask Nick. So this is like setting up for Nick's answer.
Here from work, how many relationships we've had, not like sexual relationship, just like friendship with a dealer, where you get so close with some fucking totally down and out dealer. Yeah. You see them every day, and what a manufactured relationship, and all of a sudden you're like friends. Like,
and you go to rehab, you're like, I'm never going to see Papito again.
Yeah. Did you have those kinds of relationships with people that you knew that you'd never see again, but you saw every day?
I had relationships where they'd say, "Oh, those are not."
Okay, you guys, this is Nick's voice right here. So this is Nick answering right here.
Not real relationships because they're based on drugs. I believe that you can really, like, I befriended some people that I never think I'd ever have a conversation with in rehab. And I think that for all the negative that I think it did to me, it also exposed me to a larger demographic of people.
Of course. I feel like the reason I got into heroin more than anything and drugs was to burn off my privilege, like to burn it away.
Wait till you hear how interesting this is. So he says this is the host, but he talks about burning off his privilege.
So that I would be not privileged.
It's so interesting you brought that up, because that's what was mine. I never wanted to identify with my father, with money, or the money, or being judged on any of that stuff, because I don't care about like I gotta be careful here, but I just
take notice he says about identity and how he didn't identify with his father or his grandfather.
That it's never done it for me to brag about that kind of stuff. That's
it made you uncomfortable.
It makes me uncomfortable.
To tell you the truth, actually, so like we said in the last episode, I'm an idiot. I didn't know who your dad was until Dave told me like the movies, you know what I mean? But like all I knew was like, this is like a basically famous guy's kid who's an actor and a director, whatever your dad is, you know?
So let me just set it up here that, excuse me, because this is very long episode and we don't listen to the whole thing in my live right now, and please go listen to this after our live to hear the whole thing. But I do think that it's important to note here that when they bring up the fact that he says that I didn't realize who your dad was, Nick's whole being changes in the interview. Like you could tell that the moments that he brings that up. So I caught on to that. That's in my notes right away. Later on in the episode, and this is later on in the episode, we're an hour and 34 minutes into 2.5 hours. So this is later on in the episode, but later on in the episode, he validates this thought for me. Wait, hold on.
And I was like, I had a totally different expectation for what you were going to be like. I just thought you'd be like a spoiled movie star kid, which is not what you are.
Not to mention, though,
you know,
I would just love to.
I want to just back up for a second.
well, you know what I mean. That's you judge a.
I'm glad
not even judge a book by cover, but you just get these notions
Nick,
in your head of what you think someone's going to be like because of.
He's very sensitive, smart, sweet kid.
I mean that as a
young man.
I'm taking it as one that I've changed your perspective.
Yeah,
But dude, I want.
So why do I know that he feels uncomfortable or that his demeanor changes in that moment? Because they wouldn't have felt the need to say that to him if not. So the fact that they felt the need to say, no, Nick, we think you're a smart person. Like they're giving him that affirmation. That just tells me that I was right about that. In the sense that he has enough change in demeanor during the interview that the host feels the shift in energy. At the end of the episode, what I was going to say is that this host tells everybody that Nick comes back Nick's in 4 different episodes, and this is a compilation of those 4 episodes, but that the last time he's ever talked to Nick was when he asked Nick if his dad would come on the show. And he said he never heard from him again. He tried to reach out to him multiple times after that and never heard anything back. And now that this happened, he's like, wow, like he sees it differently. So I want you guys to think about that too.
I want to say something that we didn't say in the last episode, and I want to say it before you're gone. Nick comes from a line of fucking geniuses. Like his grandfather is Carl Reiner. Carl Reiner wrote with Mel Brooks. You probably know Mel Brooks.
Yeah. I saw him the other night. He's over at my grandfather's for dinner.
This is like...
The channel is dopey.
Like, I'm not like this. Like, I'm not like a fucking up your ass kind of person. But these people, for me, like just, they made my life so much better. Your dad and your grandfather and your Uncle Mel. These people,
your Uncle Mel.
They made my life. It's just like, so I'm a little awestruck. Like we've been chilling and kicking it, and I'm not thinking about that shit. But I just want the Dopey Nation to know that like this is a real thing. Like what a fucking amazing thing that you come from.
Yeah,
like it's really
it's
cool.
It's a paradox. It's like
it fucked you up, but it gave us a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're saying how they made everyone. I'm the one that makes everyone unhappy because.
Boom. There we go. He says, I'm the one that makes everyone unhappy because I'm the one that is, the one that makes everyone unhappy because he's the one that's dealing with addiction. Army, that makes such a great point here. So sons often want to define themselves apart from their fathers. If we remember Rob Reiner's father, does anybody remember his name offhand? I know his last name's Reiner. I'm drawing a blank on his first name, but he is a legend in his own right. So it was already big shoes for Rob Reiner to fill, right? Not only does he fill those shoes, and if you think about it, he gets his start on the show All in the Family, and he plays a role of someone that I come to find out politically that he feels very much in line with. And I think there he gets done with that show after 6 seasons or 7 seasons. And he goes on to want to change into being a producer. And I caught an interview, and I don't remember exactly which interview it is. There's so many of them. I did so much research. But Rob Reiner says in the interview, I believe it was on like a late night talk show. It was, oh my God, what's his name? He was on, oh my God, it'll come to me. I see him in my head and I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, it'll come to me. One of the late night shows. So, and he says on there that it took him many years for people to take him seriously as a producer because people saw him as a TV actor. And he said back then, when you were a TV actor, it was because you weren't good enough to be in the movies. So people weren't taking him seriously as a director and producer because they were like, he was a TV actor. So he does make his way over to acting and then producing, and he winds up producing literally our age range that most of us are in via my analytics. he literally produces almost all of the hits that we grew up on. So even if you don't know Rob Reiner specifically, you know his work. So whether you like Misery or The Princess Diaries or oh my God, there's so many of them. There's so many of them. I could just go on and on and on. So, but okay, getting back to sons often want to define themselves apart from their brothers. So we already see that there's big shoes to fill for Rob Reiner. So to imagine that his sons now have to fill these shoes, it's interesting because there is a brother that is older. So he's the middle child. So it's a boy, and then the girl. I looked that up because I wanted to see where he fit in as far as his sibling, like where he fit in the sibling order. And he's a middle child. So am I. So I thought that was interesting. How many of you in here were middle children? Stand By Me was my favorite. I love Stand By Me. I can't even tell you. Misery is epic. So many of his movies are like literally epic. The Bucket List, yeah, if you guys remember any of the films, put them in the chat because there are so many of them. And I think people will see them and be like, wow, he did that too. And in Misery, Kathy Bates said, like, she put out a statement after all this, and she said that Rob Reiner changed the course of her life, and that if it wasn't for him giving her a chance in Misery, her life might have been very different. And she said that his wife, Michelle, she's a producer and a photographer in her own right. And that's another thing, right? So Nick here not only has a successful dad, but he has a successful mom and a successful grandpa. It's also important to note that his brother doesn't go on to have the same troubles that he does. So it's interesting to see how you could be brought up by the same parents, have siblings that are, you know, your biological siblings, and all of you could be very different personality-wise and in your perception, understanding, and expectations about the world. And I think that if you look at Nick, I don't know this to be true, but I wouldn't be surprised if we found out that he was the most deep of all the kids as far as like intellectually and stuff like that. So a lot of times, you know, and he tells us, he says on this interview that he didn't go to high school or college, but he knows an awful lot. Like what we already heard, he talks about a paradox and stuff. Like an 8th grader doesn't usually know what a paradox means, right? So A Few Good Men, oh my God, such a good one. Oh my God, we have a membership. Kim, you're going to make me cry already, and we just started 32 minutes ago. Kim, I appreciate you. You have supported me in a way that I can't even explain. I am so blessed to have you as part of this family, and whoever was gifted the membership from Kim, please let us know who you are, and please say thank you to Kim. Thank you, Kim. I appreciate you. I can't even articulate how much I appreciate you. That feels really good. So thank you. Feels very supportive. I love that. Kim, I love you. Zach, what about Zach, are you on this one? Oh yeah. Okay, well, I know the Jack and Lily thing. And let me be honest, the Jack and Lily thing, I feel like there's been like a little bit of tension here and there with, and I feel like I needed a break from that. So when this came along, I was like, this is literally, as far as my expertise, this is my lane, this particular case. So I think I'm going to be on this one a lot. I'm still going to do Jack and Lily, obviously. But if you want to do something on this case, like we should do it soon, because there is just so much here that I can't even, you know, fathom. Tired of these 30-something adults blaming their adult parents for everything. Okay. See Legal Canada. I was having a tongue twister there. My gosh, excuse me. So tired of the 30-year-olds blaming their adults. So this is the thing. Accountability is a huge part of this. And did anybody remember in this dopey right here in this episode, right, what we just heard was that The host says that he was trying to burn off his privilege, and then Nick jumps in and is like, funny you say that, da 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 da. This is the thing, you guys. There's something to that. And any of you that follow the Mackenzie Shirley case, even though she doesn't have a mansion and stuff like that, she was still very much privileged. And even with her parents, right? She had a lack of accountability. So between her privilege and lack of accountability led to destruction in different ways. And, you know, she didn't get addicted to heroin and crack and, you know, stuff like that. I mean, we're going to see that Nick becomes a polysubstance abuse. But you know, so Mackenzie, you know, hers is more like pot and stuff, but you still see the same destructive behaviors. And it makes you wonder, is there a common theme? And I think the answer to that is sure, absolutely. But why would it be that the daughter and the other son, because they're brought up by the same parents, why wouldn't they also have similar, like, for example, the Menendez brothers? It was the two brothers. They wind up like coming together as a force against the parents, where here, that's not what at all is happening. So I think that that's important to note too. And I think the difference is mental illness. I think that it's important, you guys, to note too what comorbidity is. So comorbidity is when you have the existence of more than one mental illness at one time. It is more likely to have comorbidity than not to. So when somebody tells me that they have one disorder, I'm always waiting for the second one that they're going to tell me about, because it literally is so much more common than not. In this case, it would make sense if the substance abuse started as a way to self-medicate, right? And what could you be self-medicating from? So could it be depression, anxiety, schizophrenia in this case, bipolar disorder? We do know that schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, addiction, these are all disorders that have a genetic component and need something from the outside environment to turn that thing on. And substance abuse in itself is an outside environment or an outside trigger that can turn on this gene for someone. So it could be very much so that the brother and the sister might have a gene for addiction that just never got turned on. And it can also be very true that they didn't get past the gene for addiction. So I think that genetics, what I'm saying is that although they're raised by the same parents in the same environment, the thing that differs is their exact genetic makeup. And I think that, you know, that's important to note. I also would be interested, and I don't know this yet, but I would be interested to see if the dad bonded more with the older son. And if so, when you have 3 children here, if dad does have it, because he doesn't bond, the son, we're going to hear it in a different interview, but he literally tells us that, thank you, Cuff You, put the podcast up there. So Dopey, if you guys are watching, hopefully this is for educational purposes, and there is the website, or the link rather, so please go visit them after this so that you can hear the whole thing. You heard the daughter's interview? I did not. Duke, hi Duke, where do I get that interview? Welcome in, you guys. I truly believe that he started doing rugs to calm his mind. See, there you go. So that happens often where we, you know, somebody starts for one reason and then continues for another. So, and we talked about that very much on last night's live. Jane shares, when I hit 40, I had to go through painful inner partner violence, family law, property law, etc. Oh, wow. Well, I don't know. You lost everything but your kids. I'm sorry to hear that. I don't know how far out you are from that, but I hope things have turned around for you. Good evening, Norel. Welcome in, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Let's get back to this real quick and listen.
I get that, okay? Because I'm from the family where it's like everybody was like going to Ivy League schools, and you know what I mean? And then I was the one. My dad came to visit me in jail behind glass, and he has a really good sense of humor. Amazing, great guy. We have a good, very good relationship. Same with my mother. And he was at my sister's graduation from Harvard Business School, and then he got on a plane to fly to Orange County Jail and visit me behind glass.
Wow.
And he came in, and the first thing he said, he's like, I'm a little confused. He's like, I was at Harvard yesterday at your sister's graduation. He's like, now I'm hanging out in line with gangsters waiting to see my other sons, my other child. Yeah, so I get that though.
But and my parents were both teachers in Manhattan.
So real quick, before we move on from that, the thing that I think is really important there, we're a proud grandma of 5 now. See, Jane, what do they say? Oh, almost 15 years. I'm so glad to hear that. See, you guys, so I think it's important for people in chat that are struggling today to know that there's so many other people in chat that have experienced the same thing, but my other daughter is so loud. She takes after me. Sorry about that. But anyway, so within 15 years, we see that you came out on the other side. So other people in here that are going through it right now know that there is another side, and that time heals a lot because we experience many things. So in this case, sorry, I got sidetracked again.
Super middle
Okay,
class.
so he talks about, I just had to hear what he said to remind myself. So he talks about how his dad goes to Harvard and then comes back to the jail to visit him. In that case, I think it's important because we see that with Eva, I'm lost. You're good. We see that with Harvard, it's just showing him that, look, my sister's smart, right? You have to be smart to get into Harvard. He doesn't say anything about his brother here yet, but he does talk about his sister and the difference. So we see the dichotomy between the two lives, like they're parallels. I mean, they're not parallel, right? They're completely different. When the other guy said, the host said about the privilege and, burning off that privilege, I feel like very much so here, Nick identifies that with that, in my opinion, because I feel like he feels that by having an addiction, right, and by going through all these traumas where he's homeless in multiple states, he suffers all of these negative consequences, all of these things, that makes him someone that struggled and someone that can identify with most of the population. Most people can identify with, the richest of our society. And so think about how isolating that must feel, especially to the developing brain. So as you get older, it might not feel so isolating, but to a teenager, it probably feels very isolating. So by burning off privilege, by using, you get to experience things that others around you experience because you're feeling down. And this is the thing, you guys. So I'm going to say this before I go back to chat and get distracted. One of the worst things you could do for someone that's going through depression is to remind them of all of their privilege. So if you have a kid right now, even if you're living in inner city Philadelphia somewhere, in a row home, but if your kid has a bed and you were able to feed them, even if it was grilled cheese, but you were able to feed them something tonight and, so on and so forth, don't remind them that, like, at least you have a room, or at least you have the shoes you wanted, or things like that. There's other kids out there that didn't get to eat tonight. Sometimes when we do that, when somebody's going through depression, so I'm not saying don't do that in general. I'm just talking about when someone's feeling depressed and they don't know why. By pointing out their privilege, it makes them go into a deeper depression, because now not only do I feel shitty, but you just reminded me of all the reasons that I should not feel shitty. So now I feel even more shitty about the situation because now I really don't get it. So I do think it's important, though, from the very beginning as a parent to do things with your kids that help them see privilege before any of this stuff ever occurs. So things like growing up before Christmas, we would donate our toys to the orphanage that was like 10 minutes from our house. But we didn't just donate it. Like we put it, like, it was hard. We were kids. I was like, I'll never forget the one year me and my brother, like, it was so hard. We gave up our Nintendo and we did not know if we were going to get anything like from Santa to replace it. And I learned so much through those lessons, though, because I was like, I have a Nintendo. Like, these kids don't have a Nintendo. They don't even have parents. Like, so we not only gave those things to them, but my parents made us go and do it. So we got to talk to them and see how happy they were and how like appreciative they were over our toys that we already used. And I'll never forget that year we got like the new Nintendo type thing or whatever. And it was just such like a life lesson because of course at the time we were still believing. So we were like, wow, like when you do like, yeah. So I think by showing kids that throughout life, and it's funny because I then grew up and I look back now and I'm like, I grew up thinking I was like so privileged. And I like look back now and I'm like, because you definitely weren't. But I think that it's good that my parents made us feel like we were, because I guess you are privileged when you have people that love you and support you and you're healthy and so on and so forth. So I guess in that way, you could say I was privileged.
Jewish fucking world. Like probably, you know, my parents were not as cool as your dad, and I'm sure your mom was a lot like my mom, just a hysterical Jewish mother.
Yeah.
Like my mom was into her looks and being glamorous, and but a great mother, you know, and like great person. But I remember when the first time I checked into detox, okay, I was on heroin for probably a year, and I was producing a TV show, and I was making good money, and I had the choice to tell my company that I was a heroin addict and I had to go away, or to tell my parents. And I didn't realize I should tell the company. I told my parents. And I went to detox at Beth Israel, public detox in New York, and it was fucked up. And they came to visit me. I called them and they were at the theater and they were all dressed. And my mother's wearing one of these silk scarves with the patterns on it. And they come to the rehab at Beth Israel and I stink of Marlboros and I'm wearing the hospital shit. And my mother's perfume was so strong. Like, and she's in this fucking cracked den fucking place.
What is this?
Yeah. But it's fucking hard.
Yeah.
It was hard to see it. My mother's dead now. God bless her. It's just so hard to put your family in that spot and to be someplace that they would never go to.
Yeah,
know,
it is hard.
Do you have siblings?
I do. I've got a
All right, here we go. He's going to talk about his siblings.
Any of them have issues?
bit polished older brother who looks like me but just does everything right.
Yeah.
And I have a sister who just went off to college.
Oh, okay.
And
Did you guys just hear what he said? So he just said, I have a brother whose spitball looks like me but does everything right, implying that he does everything wrong, right? And his sister that goes off to college, and they're like, oh, really? But he just tells us about the Harvard story. So I wonder, I don't know if he puts it together, but I wonder if he feels like, you know, I don't know.
To high school, never went to college,
Never
did
went to high
any of
school,
that stuff. And I was, the question I love to hear is, I mean, you come from a background like this, how could you ever get into drugs? It's like, well, gee, I mean, I don't even know where to start with that.
You just told us, you know, it's like, how could you have not?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know, but like, how old are you?
I'm almost 23.
You could.
So 23, this was like 10 years ago, you guys. So this was 9 years ago. And was 10. Oh, no, wait. How old is he? Is he 32 or 34? If he's 32, we're talking over 10 years. So this is about a decade ago.
Go to college and go take a writing fucking thing. You could do that. It'd be fun. I know, but
he just said, I just wrote a movie. So again, that's the one thing that he probably does have as far as his identity. And by this guy telling him to go, and again, I don't think this guy's doing anything wrong. This is just us, like, people talking normal. It's just, I'm telling you how it might have been perceived from somebody with the specific experiences at the moment. So he just gets done writing a movie. And I think that this is important because when they suggest to go to college to take a writing course and things like that, it's almost like, wait, you didn't think I'm a good writer too? Like, I just wrote that movie. And I think that that's important because when you see the interviews of him and his dad promoting the movie, he literally uses the opportunities to, like, I don't know if he uses it as an opportunity or if he's just like speaking outright and just happens to just say the things. But I'll have to show you one or two of them. But they're like, like his dad will say something and he'll be like, nuh-uh. The one thing his dad said that he took him to the wrestling to meet somebody, and he's like, that was my brother. But like, so you could tell that there was like a disappointment there.
Look at James Franco.
Yeah, look at James Franco. I don't know. Just look at him.
Look at him. Exactly. He's a beautiful man. No, but just, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, you get into, I just think it could do you some good. Fucking get back into the normal population of things. Yeah. Be a young man in school. What the fuck? What's wrong with that?
I don't know.
Am I being too preachy?
No, you're being fatherly in a good way.
Is he being camp counseling?
I haven't gotten the camp counseling. Dopey Nation, I think that is not an accurate assessment because
Modi's just an asshole. I should have kicked Modi out of the house.
Modi
was the comedian on the fucking show that called me a camp counselor, which scarred me. And now we're gonna get
Here, wait, let's go.
Don't reveal where he works.
It's okay.
Yeah.
He can believe it.
Yeah.
But then it hits me. Nick Reiner's probably not coming on Dopey, and Chris is probably fucking with me. And then I'm like,
wow. I fuck with him a lot.
And so like,
that's incredible.
He does dumb shit with me. Anyway, so Chris shows up at my work, and I'm like,
you made me show him the text messages.
I said, give me the phone.
Coke?
No, I just thought we're gonna get all ready, and then one of his friends is gonna come here or something, or just some dumb fucking move. Because I was so certain that it was going to be a huge bamboozle, but it wasn't. So
I came solo, and as humble
I came solo. In other words, without my dad.
as possible.
Incredibly humble. Can we do something? Can we? I think we should read an email.
We'll read an email and then wrap it up because he's got to meet a friend.
Yeah.
All right, hold on.
You're gonna like this, Nick. So this.
I thought this was a crack smoking story because of the blowtorch.
No, because I don't know what the torch. I guess it's for weed or something. But that was the first story he sent. I'm not going to read that one right now. I'm going to read this other one. So I make it through the first 30 days.
Wait, hold on.
So many people use, I think, because they think it makes them last longer in bed or that they lose their inhibitions. This is a side of using in recovery that is at times not talked about because it's uncomfortable or in people's underlying psyche. I now am able to have a healthy relationship with females, and while I am single now, I have had fulfilling relationships since putting the work in on myself. So sorry for the long soul-spilling email, but it helped me to write it, and maybe it will help you. Let me know before you read this one on the show if you choose to. While many of the things that I did or happened to me are hilarious, this story is funny. There are some serious undertones. On the surface, the story is funny, but there are some serious undertones. So let me know what you think, or if you read this long, shitty, strung together email.
So remember when I said that we sometimes will start, people start using for one reason and then continue for another. So we often think of the one reason as like feeling sad or depressed and then, things like that. But there's also people that, get surgery. We talked very much about this last night, who start medication and then have a hard time stopping. There's other people who, and this was a good point that I didn't really think about last night, that might use a drug or a substance to last longer sexually. There's other people that will use it to counteract the feelings of being intoxicated. So after drinking a lot at the bar, somebody might use cocaine to make them feel like they're not as drunk, but that doesn't mean that their brain isn't, taking in that amount. So I think that that's important to know.
Anyways, would love to be on the Fishy Show if you guys want.
I thought that
Just
was
let me know.
part.
Thank you again.
Thanks for having me.
It was awesome. Personally, and I wanted it in my eyes.
So then he comes back. That was the end of that one.
If there's a vial of liquid LSD
right,
Fire under you. Get that shit done, son.
Right.
Why not? It's like the world is your oyster, and all you have to do is grab that motherfucking pearl.
Wow.
All right, Nick, hit us with some dopey.
All right. What do you want to know?
Well, you got something or no? I mean,
Chris, these are your choices. You can do when he lost his virginity to the hooker, or when he got crazy drunk and high with Woody Harrelson in Texas.
Are those actually two options I have, Nick?
Yeah, there are two options you have. You can choose which one you want to hear. Fellini lost his virginity to a hooker.
Who's Fellini?
He's an Italian filmmaker.
Oh, okay. Well, since you mentioned that, let's hear about the hooker.
Okay, you guys. Real quick, trigger warning. If anybody has kids in the room, I would put your headphones on. This is like a real trigger warning. And if I take my picture off while we're listening to this, I'm probably like getting a drink or something, and I just don't want to look silly.
Oh, it was pretty much.
Oh wait, no, you told this on Dopey, I think.
You did?
Yeah,
I did. I asked if I told that, and Dave said no.
yeah, I
I'm
think you did.
stupid.
You went to. She came over. Yeah, I remember the story. Tell the Woody Harrelson one.
That was like so long ago. I'm gonna have a hard time remembering it, but I'll try, I guess.
I think you told the hooker one.
No, he
Something
told the
with
story about the chick he met after rehab, and she came over and got in the shower.
No, tell the hooker one. I'm thinking of the
Well,
chick
she
after
wasn't a
rehab.
hooker. That girl wasn't a hooker.
Oh yeah. All right, tell the hooker story.
It's not a big deal. It's just I was like 15 or something, and I went on to, it was at that time Craigslist, and I was just looking at the different profiles, and this one it was just an ass shot. That's the only thing. That was her profile picture, and it had a number, and I called her, and some kid that I met at outpatient rehab told me you could do this. That's how I knew how to do it. But I think I was watching Tom and Jerry or something, and I went over to my computer, got this woman's number. I called her up. I was about 14 or something, and her going rate was about $200. And so, and this is the part of the story that I don't usually tell, but I'll tell it anyways.
Listen up.
I got $200 from my parents. I snuck in.
Well, what did you say to them? How did you get the money?
I didn't say anything. I was saying, I snuck into where I knew the money was, like the Pink
Oh,
Panther.
you stole $200 from your parents.
Right. I didn't say, hey, look, I'm gonna.
He said I got the 200 from my parents, so I think that is a big differentiation.
Be with a hooker tonight. Do you think you have an extra 200?
You could have said there was a big field trip. I need $200 to go to the cookie factory or something.
It was also like 1 a.m. or something. So.
Okay, so she
That's rationalization.
comes over. Well, tell us what happened.
Okay, you were asking me questions. She comes over. I didn't know how it worked, so I tried to kiss her. She didn't want that. Then we walked.
Nick, just to interrupt, if you want to kiss them, it has to say GFE.
What does that mean?
Girlfriend experience.
Oh, you know that, dude. Obviously, I don't even know what that is.
Chris is the hooker expert.
You're clearly
I've heard this.
sure.
Excuse me.
And this isn't me. This is my friend doing all this. He told me this.
All right, so continue.
Any more questions?
No, continue.
I
Okay, so he clearly gets annoyed when they interrupt.
no. So then, at the end of it,
Wait, what did she look like?
Yeah, how was the face?
she was not a hot look. She was not a good-looking chick. I'll just say that. I didn't care because I was young and I was like, "This is awesome."
Did the ass match the picture of the ass? It's hard to tell, probably.
I think it was like 10 years earlier. It was Dave.
Right.
When she moved in dinner, or I don't know. I can't really. It was so long ago. I can't really.
Nick, how long did you last?
15 seconds. So ahead, she left, and then I was like, "That was awesome." I kind of felt like shit, but I was like, "That's awesome." So then I realized I had more money on me, and I called her back, and she came for a second time.
No way.
The story, I never asked her name. I never really got into any specifics of anything. But somewhere along the way, when I used to tell this, someone dubbed her as Cherry Red. So that's what I go by, as Cherry Red.
There it is. Amazing.
Oh. And you were horny to shark?
Not then. But to add a dopey twist to it, I think people in California know this is a hubby bar, which it's like an entire chocolate edible. It's like a pot brownie, but it's in a chocolate bar. And I was extremely blazed. But I still would have done it if I was sober, I think.
That's amazing.
So that's
Amazing.
how he
Good
lost
story.
his virginity. And then this is the fourth time.
So what's happening, man? How you doing?
As good as I ever am.
Oh yeah, is that bad, huh?
What does that tell you?
Well, it tells me you're not doing dope and you're not doing meth, but you're smoking weed and drinking a little bit.
Well, I'm not doing dope. I can tell you that much.
Well, that's a good thing.
So he didn't say that he wasn't doing, excuse me, the other one.
Oh no, that's not a good thing. You're not reading in between. You're doing meth at this point. You're going to say that on Dopey?
No, I didn't say that.
What did you say?
I said I'm not doing dope.
So what are you
That's
doing?
You just asked me.
What are you doing?
Oh well.
I actually heard it the same way, so I don't know how you guys heard it.
I'm smoking a little weed,
Mm-hmm.
taking a little Adderall.
Okay.
But that's what everybody's doing.
What does Adderall do for you? Like what?
Adderall's like a prescription
I
speed Ritalin kind of thing.
I know. It calms people down.
It's like a cup of
ADHD.
It's like a cup of coffee for severely ADD.
It's a little bit more than a cup of coffee.
Did you hear the Dr. Drew? He says Adderall is going to be the thing that does you in. He says Adderall is that slipping.
I know, but he's like a stiff.
He is a stiff. But come on. Well, I mean, listen. The only reason, I mean, you are Nick Reiner, original Dopey legend, so you're allowed to call in whenever you want. But I've waived that you have to be clean to be on Dopey because Chris certainly wasn't clean on Dopey.
I know, but you didn't know that.
Yeah, well, you didn't know that, even though people think you should have, but you didn't. I didn't know it.
How would you know it? Nobody knew it.
Yeah.
Easiest Dopey stories I ever heard. I heard from Chris.
Well, yeah. So about like a year ago, I guess, I got back on dope and other things. And to make a really long story short, I wound up having a cocaine heart attack. And
Wow. So I think this episode was taken in, I think it said 7 years ago. So that would be 2018. So the year before that would be 2017.
I wound up traveling with this bald guy who I will not name. I don't know if I should or should not name him.
Is it Jeff Van Vanderslands?
No, his name is Jim Earnhardt. And
Good name.
he did an intervention on me when I was like 14.
Right.
And he did one again when I was 24.
Okay.
And anyways, I wound up...
How old are you now, Nick? How old are you now?
I'm 24.
All right. There you go.
So I wound up on a plane with him.
And now we know that he's 32. So that's like 8 years ago.
And I was on like Suboxone too. So I literally like passed out on the plane and I woke up in a hospital. And when I opened my eyes, Chris was in the hospital with me. And I thought I had like died and gone to hell.
Is that true?
No, it's not actually true. But Chris was actually in the hospital with me. And
Was he there to
guess
see you?
I had pissed the guy I was with off so much that he was like, I cannot be with this guy anymore. Like, I have to like pawn him off onto somebody. And I guess Chris had heard I was in the neighborhood, and he was like, oh, I'm going to stop by and like.
I'm not sure who Chris is. I know one of the hosts here is a Chris, but I don't know if it's the same person he's talking to.
Hang out with this guy. And yeah.
What I had heard was that somehow you needed to go to treatment. You know, you had to go to treatment, and somehow it got to Chris's sister's company, and they told Chris's sister that you were going to Boston. So he found out where you were going, and he wanted to check on you, and he went to the hospital, and you're like out of your mind. You had a heart attack on the plane. I think we should double back to that part of the story.
I was going to say they kind of like brushed over that quickly. He's like, yeah, I had what they call a cocaine heart attack, and then just kept going.
And you wake up and you're like, hey, Chris, no. And you start talking. And Chris is like, wait a second. Aren't you surprised that I'm sitting here? And you were like, I guess so. Things are all fucked up, man. You know, it was like that. But how did you go from just smoking weed and the occasional Adderall to relapsing on dope in the first place?
Well, how do you think? I'm a drug addict.
That's fair enough. But do you remember a defining moment where it shifted? Because that could be helpful to somebody out there who's smoking weed and taking Adderall.
So this is so important.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of details to the story that I'm sort of just brushing over.
Are any worth telling, or you don't want to tell them?
I'm fine telling them.
Tell them. Details of the.
It's really kind of boring. I mean, it's the same old story that everybody has. I kind of linked up with this old dealer, and I was, he was a heroin dealer.
In the first place, like, how did that happen? Did you want the dope?
No, I kind of like one day I was like, I want to buy a bag of Coke, and I kind of messaged him or something, and we met up, and he was like, oh, I also have some heroin. And that turned into me hanging out with him for like 3 weeks, like doing heroin.
Right. Did you know, like, you were just like kind of not doing hard drugs?
He brings up a good point that it's could they be using him? She says, I feel this podcast is really using it for inappropriate entertainment. So this is the thing. So both of these hosts are in recovery, and they meet Nick on Facebook. So they've reached out to Nick on Facebook, and he responded. And that's how they wind up interviewing him and getting a relationship with him and stuff like that. I will say that the one does say that he was starstruck about the dad. What do you want us to do? Empathize? I don't want you to do anything. I want to just teach about human behavior. And I think that this is a great depiction of that human behavior and how we can, use some of this. And like they said, they want him to talk to give other people, maybe help other people. So, and you'll see, they keep going. There's a part in the first part I actually should go to.
Nick?
Wait, what was that?
I would always, like, whenever I relapsed on serious, like on heroin and pills.
But yeah, so empathizing. So I'm not telling anybody what to do. I personally empathize with people that are going through addiction. I know that it's a disease. It's part of the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. And I know that there's a genetic component, and that for some people, like a group of people could go out and everyone can get high. And I said this last night about, most of the people are going to go the next day and talk about, oh my God, what did we do last night? And there might be that one person that triggers a lifelong addiction for them. So everyone's different. And for somebody that triggers a lifelong addiction, I certainly don't think that they deserve to be pinpointed in the group of friends. It's just that they had the genetic predisposition. So I empathize, but I never tell anybody else what to do.
And stuff. I craved that release or that relief. You know what I mean? Like, that you're going to get a certain level of relief from doing dope or taking pills or something that you're not going to get just from smoking weed.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, what do you think it was? Like, you were like,
I will say this. If you listen to the interview, I see what you guys are saying about the exploit part, but you do have to remember that they are podcast hosts. And if you listen to the podcast with other guests, it's usually people that are sober, and they all talk about their like the stupid things that they did. And I'm skipping through and I'm letting us hear a lot of Nick stuff. But when you guys go back and listen to the whole thing for yourselves, there are certainly parts that I skip over that it's the other guys telling their story. So I wonder if you heard it in its entire context, if you guys would still feel that it was exploiting Nick. And it's certainly, might be. They also talk about how they all, think of being clean a little bit different too. So I should try to find that in the beginning.
Dangerously with this guy, and then like, did he know you had been a heroin addict in the past?
Yeah, he knew.
Yeah,
he knew my whole drug history, and he was happy to to take my money from me.
Was he just basically taking advantage of you? Just
He's a drug dealer. He
Yeah.
did his job.
Yeah, he wasn't taking advantage of me.
He was a drug dealer who did his job.
Yeah.
And then you wound up going to sober living in Maine, right?
Well, it was, this is why it sucks to smoke weed and not remember anything, because it's like, so I went through so many different steps before I wound up at the sober house in Maine. Like literally after the hospital in Boston, I went to a detox in Boston, and Chris visited me a few.
Jane, I don't think you're being selfish. I think you bring up a huge, important part. He does take the lives of his parents. And for that, he needs to, they need to get justice. So I don't think there's anything selfish about that at all. And when I say that I empathize, I'm talking about with addiction as a whole. So for the two boys, listen to me, the two men that are hosting the podcast, I empathize for them. I empathize for so for their addiction, not for anything that he did. And I do think that this comes full circle in that one of the questions that I wanted to ask tonight, and if you're coming from personal experience, I would love to get your input specifically, but he talks about how, so it's such like a back and forth. So from what I get from all the research that I did, and I did hours of research last night, you guys, and from what I get is that the mom and dad, at one point, they said they would have paid anyone behind a desk and a degree that would tell them what to do because they felt like they were helpless. And we talked about this last night, how people stop seeing red flags because they don't know what to do after a while. And what happened was the dad said that he disagreed with that tough love and that he felt like he needed to listen to his son. And then he actually feels guilty for the last however many years. I don't know exactly when this change occurs, but he feels guilty and he speaks out against some of the mental health professionals that told him to do tough love. So he says that he believes that him and his wife regret that and that they wish that they never listened to that and that they wish they listened to what their son said that he needed. So I think here the point of that is the son says that what he needed was not tough love. However, when him and his dad are being interviewed for the Finding Charlie movie that they created together, one of the interviewers asks him, and I think we watched this last night, asks him about what worked, and he says tough love. So I'm like, I don't know if that was like a Freudian slip, if he said that on purpose, I'm not really sure. But then he goes into elaborate by saying, it was when my dad pretty much was like, grow up, this can't go on anymore. You need to and when he gave me tough love that I started to, turn. And I'm like, so what was he telling you that he needed? Right. So at the time, I think what I'm getting at is that I think he was saying what he needed in active addiction. And I don't know that that's the best time to tell somebody your needs because it might enable active addiction. And that might be what, might have happened here. But I think that absolutely, Jane, absolutely. Same thing for women and anybody that's being abused, right? So not just women, anyone. Absolutely. And so what starts to happen is, because you could think of this as abuse sometimes, Jane, right? Because let's say for the siblings, before they move out and get their own places, they very much have to live with this. So their lives have very much been affected. I am sure I have not heard anything that the siblings, I haven't heard any interviews, anything ever about them. But I'm assuming that Nick's addiction took up a lot of the parents' energy, right? So the parents probably spent a lot of their time with him and focusing on him and focusing on worrying about him and worrying about, his safety and his health and all these things that who knows if they might have felt left out or felt like the parents weren't giving them the attention that they deserved. So I wonder what we're going to see with that as well. But going back to red flags real quick, sometimes when we feel like we've done everything, we're like, okay, it's almost like the, what do they say? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So after some point, I mean, it's not surprising that some parents, not necessarily here, but some parents or people in the situation might be like, okay, well, that's not working, the tough love. So let's try it differently. And then try it differently. And in doing so, wind up not only enabling the behavior, but overlooking red flags that they weren't overlooking before. And the problem for me with that is that when there's additional comorbid disorders, especially alleged schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, that's also possibly playing a role here. Now, for me, we just dissociate or break that tie between fantasy and reality. So now for me, if the person is fantasizing in any way about revenge or, even like, what's the word I'm looking for? Not revenge, resentment. That's the word I'm looking for. I apologize. So resentment, stuff like that. So as that builds up, sometimes people start to fantasize. And if he has untreated schizophrenia and he's having delusions or hallucinations, and I think we saw in the interview last night, one of the things that I saw so clearly, and so did some of you, was a depersonalization. Like there's at one point the dad asks him a question and he's like, what? And the dad has to like reword the question. And we were like, wait a minute, was he not paying attention? And I rewound it. And not only was he not paying attention to the question, he looked completely detached. So then today I watched the Behavior Bureau, and what do they say? Look how detached he is in this part. And I was like, oh my gosh, you guys were so smart. They saw the same thing as us. But let's hear it out.
2 times while I was there, and I called him a few times while I was there, and he even came and visited me, and he brought me cigarettes while I was there. And and then, and then later on, I went to like another place a little bit down the road. Like I think he would know the name, but I don't know the name.
Yeah, I don't know the name. Some treatment over there.
And then I went to, so a bunch of places. And then I went to another place for about 2 weeks. And then I went to the sober house in Maine.
I remember I talked to you a bunch in that period, and you were so miserable. Remember, you were so bored and so angry. You were so.
I remember calling you at one point while I was in Boston.
So I think this is the Chris that they were talking about, that he opens his eyes and Chris is sitting there. And I think that just goes to show that they have a relationship, these guys, off of the show. And I think that plays into the comfortableness that they have conversating.
And at this like really shitty halfway house. And I remember complaining to you and being like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm like going to movies and like, by myself, and I'm like still detoxing, and I'm like unsure of like what to do with myself. And you're like, don't worry, like in no time, some hot girl with a Southie accent will be blowing you.
Is that what I said? Was I right? Yeah. Was I right or was I wrong?
I mean, you were sort of right.
So, yeah, it worked out. I remember I just said, watch the Godfather trilogy and then watch the 5 Rocky movies.
The same old stuff. Snoop, T-Ball.
Yeah. That's fair enough. You writing? Nick wrote a big movie.
What did he just say?
Wow.
A big movie about a drug addict who couldn't.
One pill, I would, they would send me to some treatment. I saw that happen with like a ton of kids there. So I was smart about it. And I just was like, you know what? I want to go home. And so I just stayed sober long enough till I could go home. And then, I went home and did it.
So it was like a premeditated relapse, but it was motivated by your desire to get home, really.
He just wanted to be able to get high at home with no consequences, right? Hello?
Yeah.
Now, do you feel What are you doing? Are you having fun at home? How are things?
Things are great.
What are you doing?
The usual stuff. My brother just moved back home, so that's pretty cool.
That is good. Smoking weed like Snoop Dogg, fucking playing basketball, fucking crossing people over. What are you doing? What's going on?
The same old stuff. Snoop, T-ball.
Yeah. That's fair enough. You writing? Nick wrote a big movie.
Oh, wow.
A big movie about a drug addict who couldn't get
Yeah,
clean.
I'm a big-time screenwriter, baby.
He's a big-time
Nice.
screenwriter, baby.
Nice.
I sent Nick my script. It's only taken him 2 years to read half of a 22-page script. Unbelievable.
I'm a slow reader. I'm retarded.
You're an unbelievable human. Could you
All right. We obviously don't condone that language.
believe it that we got Artie Lang on the show and within 2 weeks Chris would be fucking dead?
Yeah, that was the other thing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Nick,
It's honestly unbelievable that you got him on.
oh, that's you think that after Chris dies, you're still shocked that Artie came on Dopey. That's so funny. You saw Artie fucking tweeting about Chris and everything, right?
That's also crazy too.
I know. Artie, I texted Artie last week. I was like, dude, you should be the host on Dopey. And he ignored me for days. And then I wrote something passive aggressive, like, you don't need to respond. And he wrote, I need to make money, man. And I wrote, if you were the host of a recovery podcast, it would be total redemption for you. And he wrote, could you please stop texting me?
Oh my God.
Which is very classic. And also, were you shocked when Chris turned up dead? I mean, I guess
Who were they talking about? Chris who? Now I'm like curious.
most addicts know that's possible. But in my mind, it was not possible that Chris could fucking turn up
It
dead.
was not possible in my mind.
No, I really was shocked.
I know. And it's so sad also because on the show, one of the biggest messages on the show was I was constantly telling him that he was full of shit. And he was quoting all this stuff at me and he was full of shit in the end and he lied about the whole thing, which kills me.
Yeah.
You know?
No, yeah.
Fucking unreal, right? Unreal.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't as surprised about Todd. That, you know, when that,
Now I'm curious. I'm wondering who Chris is in this case and if it's the guy from the very first interview.
when we found out about him, I was like, it's like the other shoe had dropped. I feel like I've been waiting for that for years.
What do you get out of smoking weed that you didn't get out of full-on recovery?
Absolutely nothing.
Really? Talk about that, please.
There's this thing called analogia, and it's a lack of, once you get high, one of the things that we deal with in treatment for people in recovery is this analogia, and this is when you have that inability to get that dopamine hit or that feeling of emotion. So, and I think you see this in a lot of his interviews. And I don't know if anybody knows who John Kelly is. He's awesome. If you don't know who he is, you should go check him out. And he's like a very well-known forensic psychologist. And he deals with his own, he's a recovering addict for many years now. And he talks about this often and about how after getting that euphoric high, it's often hard when someone's sober to feel that emotion like they did before. So I think that's what they're referring to here, and they just don't have the terminology for it.
What's there to talk about?
Well, the next question is then, is it just a habit? Is it a connection to other people that brings you back to it? Is it just like triggers from where you are? Like what?
He smokes weed to chill.
It's just how it's like sitting down to watch television for you, or
What do you think, Nick? Talk to the non-addict on Dopey.
yeah, I'm the non-addict. I don't know what I'm talking about. So I'm curious.
Oh, you're a non-addict?
Yeah, Jim is a non-addict. He came on to make Dopey less miserable than it's been.
I don't know if I'm doing much. I'm doing a good job of that.
Good to have us. Jim grew up with me, and we used to get high in high school and did acid in college.
So I want to make sure before we do hang up at some point that we Look, that's a different person. I'm wondering now. I'm going to have to go back and do my research. But in the very beginning,
Figured it is relevant to put out Nick's appearances here in one place. And
Yep.
that's it. Here is me. This is first me, Nick, and Chris.
see Chris.
Then again, it's me, Nick, and Chris in person. Then it's me and Chris, and Nick calls in. And then after Chris died, my friend Jim was actually sitting in, and Nick calls in. So I'm going to play them.
Oh my God, you guys. I was right about that. Wow. I'm wondering now, so when you listen to this, Nick and Chris and this guy over here have a conversation, and one of them believes in, well, Nick and the long guy believe in like the path of least resistance or whatever, or like in other words, it's okay to smoke pot if you're not doing heroin type thing, or it's okay to be on methadone but because you're not doing heroin and stuff. And we talked about that a little bit last night. So I kind of identify with this. I'm wondering if Chris was the one that was like hellbent on sobriety. I can't believe I missed that.
Back to back. But before I play anything, I just want to make sure you guys know that we didn't have microphones when we recorded
No,
this. So
that's fine.
But the best movie, the best movie he did, fucking Stand By Me.
That's about the dad.
thumpers or whatever. That's what you get. That's what you hear.
There's no such thing.
And even if it's not, you tune out the good stuff because you're
Because you
getting
hear something.
And you're
Crazy
freaked
stuff.
out. You're freaked out.
You're freaked out.
I
And
hear that.
And but listen, that's not the, and there's other things for me that I have difficulty with, which is, and a lot of people
And this is Nick speaking.
they count their sober days, and if that works for them, that's great. But I think everybody uses differently, so I think everybody gets sober differently, and everybody has their own different definition of sober. And if someone is not completely abstinent in the minds of people that are in the program, they're not anything because they're still using, quote unquote. And that's where I think I differ maybe from you.
Dave and I get into it a lot where I'm just gonna say my piece, then you say your piece.
So this must be Chris because he said Dave and I.
I support harm reduction, which in the rooms is like a huge deal. You can't support it, And I'm like,
Yeah.
If you're trading a lethal substance for a non-lethal substance and the consequences are less and your quality of life is improved, like, good for you. Like, that's a good thing. Whereas in AA, you can't share, you know what I mean? There's a bunch of...
Oh, wow, you guys. So, wow, Chris is the one that believed in harm reduction. So maybe the one that believes in abstinence, he's the one that, wow, that lasts this whole time. And at the end, he's the one that says that he's mad that he felt like Chris lied to him. That's so interesting.
You're demonized.
You're demonized.
And my only
that's-
opinion is like, I think of it all just for myself, and I'm 42 years old, and I have a year.
No, it's Chris. It's the guy that's speaking right now, the host of the Dopey podcast.
Sober. Just so you know what I mean. I've been fucking in and out on drugs, constantly for my entire adult life. And I was on methadone for 6 years, and I was on Suboxone, and I was on benzos, and I was, a stoner, and I have my credential.
Yeah.
But like fucking for me, anytime I took anything, I would wind up on heroin eventually.
Okay, I felt that way for years and years and years and years. And when I started not thinking that way and started thinking, look, every time I go out, like, when they say when someone goes out, they go on a huge drug bender and they do as much as they were planning on doing, as much as they did before. If someone was not so scared to relapse and just smokes a joint or something like that, I know a lot of friends that would still be alive. Yeah. And I honestly believe that all or nothing kind of like, if you go back out, and I that drug addict mindset where it's like, if I'm going to go out, I'm not going to smoke. I'm going to do it up.
Yeah.
I'm going to go crazy.
Yeah.
So do you ever just smoke a joint?
Yeah.
You can do that.
I do that. And you know what? And I've done heroin, and I've done meth, and I've done everything under the sun. And I'm not afraid, because if there's someone listening to this podcast that can get something out of, if they think they're not, particularly on the right path, but it's not I don't know. I'm starting to get into some.
I think what he's trying to say is that there could be somebody out there that maybe, I think what he's saying, read between the lines, is if you're like smoking pot and you're not doing heroin, don't let someone say that you're not sober, because you are sober from heroin. I think that's what he's trying to say here. And I just use heroin as an example, but that's like the gist of what I got out of that. And it's interesting that Chris is the one that also agrees with harm reduction. The reason we see a lot of people follow AA as opposed to Narcotics Anonymous is, and you hear a lot of this here. I believe Chris is the one that also has been to recovery like 17 times. And I believe Nick beats him by like one time. They talk about it in this episode. But, oh, wow, this is so interesting, you guys. I'm making so many connections in my brain right now that I can like hardly keep up with it. So I think what's happening here is that with AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, there's the 12-step program. The problem, and they often they'll talk about it in a minute at some point about the 12-step program. And Nick's thing is, what if you're not religious? There's like a huge religious component to the 12 steps. And then he also says, what if you're sober for 20 years off of hard drugs, but you smoke pot? Why should you not be allowed to go to an AA type meeting? So that's like the conversation they're having.
No, it's all right. No, but it actually, what you're saying though, it actually even says, and people lose this, like the people who are very ensconced in the program sometimes forget, like the program was originally the big book that, was written by Bill Wilson, Dr. Bob, and the founding members. And he actually says in it, like, if you think that you can like drink successfully and control it, like we urge you to go out and try. And like people forget that language is in there. And like the reason it's in there is because like if there's something you can do and successfully do it, the original people that started the program said go out and try it. And then if you can't, then
Nick's gonna respond to this, and I actually agree with Nick.
Like maybe,
but it's in there as like a go out and try.
No,
when you fail.
Because if you don't,
that is that, but it's also not. No, it is written for that purpose, but it's not saying we know you're going to fail. It's saying if you
don't fail, then we're not going to see you again.
Then we don't need you.
No. What it says to me when I hear that line is, look, you can go out and try it, running your own show, but you're going to end up crawling back here. Is that not what they say in the rooms? You will end up.
So that's what I'm trying to differentiate. Is it's what they say in the rooms. There's members. It's sort of like a Catholic priest speaking the Bible. There's great priests and there's bad priests, or like any like organized religion. There's people in the rooms and
they're idiots just like us.
They're just fucking
smart.
No, but a lot of people that are vulnerable that are in there, they look up to these people that it's somehow a huge badge of honor that they've been sober for this long period of time, and they take their cues from these people that are so-called idiots.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I mean, I think it's like
it's a very valid complaint.
And can I talk about Bill Wilson for a second? And just to be honest about that, I know his history.
I think that was an important. I wonder what you guys think about that. What do you guys think about that? So I forget exactly who I just had up there that said about Al-Anon. This is the thing. In Philadelphia, where I'm at, when I was getting my master's, we had to go to Al-Anon, and we had to go to Narcanon. We had to go to all the different meetings. And AA has been, in my experience, the most helpful. When I went to the AA meetings around here, what I found is that a lot of people learned things that made their addiction worse. And there are some amazing programs. I think Al-Anon works more for like the families and stuff, and Narcanon for families. But as far as like NA around where I live, they find more success with AA. What do you guys, how is it around where you're at?
I'm going to take a psychedelic journey.
Yeah.
Would do you think it could not be?
So here they talk about psychedelics and counseling, and I do think that at some point we are going to see psychedelics being used in therapy, and we're going to see it being used for like depression, anxiety, and even drug addiction. So wait till you guys see all the research on that's coming out. And there are so many trials right now going on. So for people experiencing depression, if you haven't had success with antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication, it might be something that could help.
Being sober every single day, as opposed to if you weren't to go crazy, you just smoke some weed, drink some beer, do whatever you got to do, and who knows, you might get some more work done during that period or something else that you want to get done. But I just rather not spend my life like just constantly like ticking away at the days that I've stayed clean, because I don't really feel like just
like right away. I was in this hospital called McLean's in Boston. I started to really do something and take action in my life.
I feel bad. You guys should all get
and I fucking left there, and for the first time, it would have been good. Yeah.
Get to the parts that I wrote down, and again, please, everybody, go back after this and rewatch the whole thing in its entirety.
To self-actualization, and people find that through.
So the one, this is so interesting. So the one that believes in AA, that I believe is still alive throughout the whole thing, that is not Chris, is studying to be like a counselor. And he talks about Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs here, and about how self-actualization is at the top of the hierarchy, and about how through
fulfillment, right? There's this priest. I read this beautiful article, right? There's this priest. There's a Polish priest, and he took a bunch of bottomed out alcoholics in Poland who were really fucking bad, right? You know what I mean? Like train track guys for the U.S. You know what I'm saying? And he brought them in, and he's like, "We're gonna do something to help you get sober, right?" He's like, "You guys can think of anything you want, and we'll fucking do it." And they decided, there's just a bunch of winos, that they wanted to build a boat and sail it around the world. And he fucking went, somehow raised money, bought like this frame, this steel frame, and they've been working on it now for like 4 years. He died after 2 years. They've been working on it for like 4 years, and not one of them has relapsed. And his argument was that it's what you're talking about. It's that fulfillment, that purpose, and the ability to pursue it. Actually,
boom. So he's talking about an identity, you guys, and that's exactly what I think this comes full circle for me, is that I hit the nail on the head from the very beginning, that this is about a lack of identity. So what he's talking about here is that this treatment, that the story that he's telling, is the idea that if you give somebody an identity, or if somebody feels as though they have a purpose, or that they're needed, or that, they're contributing to society in a meaningful way, it gives them a reason and hope to continue. So what he's saying here is that the research that he's sharing is that this priest found that when given an identity and something that you feel proud of, that could help, with sobriety. But I think there is something deeper too, biologically, that we have to also heal.
He kept them all sober.
It's so so fascinating that you bring that up, because have you heard of a thing called Rat Park?
Yeah. Okay, so I know a lot. So I speak.
Have you talked about this?
I've talked about it on the show. So the rat part, the one thing though, is that they misquoted a lot. So it's
time out. What's rat park?
That was
all right, you guys. Wait till you hear this study. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
I'm gonna give a brief rundown. Rat Park is an experiment that they did where they took 10 rats and they put it in a cage with nothing in the cage, and one water was filled with just water, and the other water bottle was filled with water and cocaine. And
I think, right? Was it opiates?
Some drug.
Some opiates, yeah.
And nine out of the 10 rats or mice, they died of an overdose.
It was like hell. It was like rat hell.
Rat hell.
Yeah.
And then they had another cage filled with wheels and mountains and
they call it the Rats Carlton.
Whatever rats do, they were having sex, they were doing the whole thing, and sometimes they'd go, but no, they would just drink the normal water because they needed it. And you wonder why people relapse. It's because people are, they're bogged down by this system. They have to keep going in and out of jail. They're marked as this pariah of society. And I just feel like, if anyone has a drug problem, they should feel free to come out and express it how they want.
Let I have some serious questions.
Let me say some stuff about the rats. So the rats, they did that experiment because all these GIs like were over in Vietnam banging dope, right? Like a lot, like 80% or something. A lot of people use heroin, and then they came back. They were addicted to heroin, and a lot of them just fucking stopped. And they were like, "What the fuck? Like, we thought heroin was a life sentence." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're like, there must be like a social reason why people use. Like, their life was hell. They were in a war zone, so they were all banging dope. Then they came back.
Okay, so the idea here, and being a psychological researcher, I want to make sure that we don't spread misinformation or disinformation. I have not looked this rat experiment up. I am interested. The whole idea here, so going from the boat to the rat experiment to now this, the idea here is all the same, that when you had a purpose, that the rats didn't go back to the cocaine water. I think the important part of that is when it comes to that, if I guess what I'm saying is, if what they're saying is true, and I don't know why they would cite a research study that didn't happen. So I am going to look into it. But if what they're saying is true, about 10% of the rats still drank the cocaine water, even when they had everything that all of their needs were met. And I think that the reason I thought it was interesting to share this is because if you go back to what we were talking about last night, I shared with everybody, and I think I did today too, that not everybody is going to have, the genetic predisposition for addiction. So my hypothesis there would be is that about 10% of the rats had a gene for addiction. And once that gene was turned on, that even in the presence of everything they wanted, they were still drawn to the substance. And I think that's what they were getting at here. And I think that if we're looking at that, I mean, research does suggest that it's hard to just stop a drug. Are there people out there that can just stop using? Sure. But for most people, you need someone from the outside environment to help you. I think we need to understand that with addiction. I wrote it down the other night, but I think I left my book in my car and I'm not going to go get it now. I'll do it on the next live. But I tried to write down in like real people, like terminology, like not like research terminology, how addiction hijacks the part of the brain that houses survival. So the part of the brain that houses, the things for survival. So thirst, hunger, reproduction, that same part of the brain gets hijacked in addiction. So what starts to happen is someone that you may have looked at before, like, I don't know how they could take their kids with them to get drugs and stuff like that. Now, 10 years later or something, I'm making up this example, but let's say 10 years later, now this person finds themselves in that situation where they're taking their own kids with them. So it's like something that you were before thought could never happen or that you would never do. Now it's happening. And the reason that happens is because it hijacks that part of the brain. So just like you need, hunger, thirst, sleep, reproduction for survival, the substance becomes part of that equation, which makes it that much harder to just treat on its own.
And a lot of them stopped, So they devised this experiment and that confirmed it with the rats, And they actually took rats who were addicted to the heroin from the shitty cage and they put them in the nice cage.
Oh, wow.
And they would maintenance themselves off the heroin water and drink the regular water.
That's crazy.
But
it was heroin water, not cocaine water.
What's often not quoted when they mention this is there was a percentage
Go slow.
There was
Please go slow.
There was a percentage of the rats
People don't know what that is.
used the heroin water no matter what. It was about 10%, which coincides with the genetic markers for addiction in the human race.
There
So
you
the
go.
afflicted,
Listen,
the dopination of rats stayed high.
no, not necessarily. What he's saying is, and I believe this to be true.
And so Nick's going to clarify what he's saying here. I think Nick is so very smart. It's a shame that he didn't have to go to high school. Like, I wonder how that happened. He said that he didn't go to high school or college, and not every college isn't for everyone, surely. But I know where I live, and even in inner city Philadelphia, if your kids don't go to high school, you get in trouble. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Because this is why I don't think you
But
can
he seems to know an awful lot, so he still stayed highly educated.
say there's like some people try to say there's no such thing as addiction.
Yeah.
I seen it. I've seen the person who literally is an addict.
He's got his blood.
It's in his
he was
blood.
born that way.
You're looking at him right now. This is him.
And you look like a happy guy to me, so I wouldn't say anything.
It's because he's clean.
and that's because he's clean.
Yeah.
But I think that's interesting that you say that, because I think there's some people, it doesn't matter, nurture, nature, where it's just in them.
It's just in their blood. And I do think that 12-step groups are pretty good for those people, because 12-step philosophy is you can't use anything and stuff like that. And I agree with you. All the stuff you said, there's some dogma in it that's very difficult to swallow. And there's a lot of stuff like within the program that's not great. But, and also what's different is like in the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders, which is what's used in psychology, we meet the criteria for a substance use disorder.
That's new.
Well, it was called there was a DSM-4. It's been in it for a while, right? Which is classified as a disease and stuff. But you can meet the criteria for a substance use disorder, and I don't think you can be that genetic born alcoholic. And those people who might meet that criteria, I think, can benefit from harm reduction and maybe.
All right, let me jump in real quick. Somebody who studies the DSM. So what I do want to say here, he is right that there is substance use disorder, but there's substance use disorder and then substance abuse disorder. So they would actually fit the criteria for substance abuse disorder or addiction, right? So I don't know, like substance use disorder would be the beginning stages of using. And then, different than experimenting. So using, maybe people are using on the weekends, but not during the week, stuff like that. So that's usually how it starts. So over here, unfortunately, when rehabs, therapy, and medication do not fix the problem, many blame the mental health system or professionals for failing and abandon all forms of treatment, failing the user. So explore core. The reason I highlighted this is because what you're saying is validating my point about how we get desensitized to the red flags, right? So when everything else seems like it's not working, I mean, the truth is, unless the patient wants to get clean, there's only so much we could do. Once you're 18, it's your right to use. I mean, that is your right. I mean, it's illegal to buy or to sell it, but it is your right to use it. I can't stop you. I could give you all the reasons why I don't think you should do it and why I think you're valuable and that, your life has value and da-da-da-da-da. But if you don't believe that, or if you don't identify with that, then you don't, not you guys personally, I'm just saying in general. Whenever I say you, just know that I don't mean you guys. I mean like just in general. But in that situation, you know what I mean? You can only do so much. However, I think that when we feel like we've done everything, that's when it becomes easier to become desensitized or rationalize the red flags. And what do I mean by that? Let me give you an example. Let's say I got one. I was listening when I was doing my research, and at some point Nick says, I tried to find every interview I could with him. And in an interview that I saw with him, he talks about how he destroys the guest house. So apparently his parents want him to go to a rehab at some point, and he's living there in the guest house, and he gets angry and he goes out and he literally says it. He's like, there was like 10 rounds with me in the guest house. And he says he destroyed the entire thing, right? So in that situation, should the parents hold him accountable? Absolutely, right? The problem is what we hear when we listen to Rob Reiner's interviews is that he felt like when he did that, that's when his son would become homeless. I also heard, I'm just putting something together right now, I remember in an interview, Nick saying that, oh, well, I wonder, oh my gosh, you guys, I don't remember Nick's exact words, but I'm like under the impression, could he have used, and this is just a question and, speculation, could he have used homelessness as manipulation? Like, if you guys don't, help me the way I need to be helped, then I guess I'm just going to have to be homeless. Oh my God, Harlot, you have a headache. So I hope you feel better. Don't feel like you have to be, talking in chat. We appreciate you being here, and I'm sorry your head hurts. Narcissist is the enemy. Yeah. Yep. So let's see what else. Yes, narcissism is a huge one. I talk about narcissism often. Last night when before I did my research, like in between the live stream I did and my 12 hours of research after, in between there somewhere, I was like updating some of my thumbnails, and I posted on my page one of my very first videos. It only has like 100 views or something because it was literally from the very beginning. And it's about about manipulation. And I have a bunch of them on narcissism from back then too. So I encourage you guys to look through my shorts and my videos. I do have videos about narcissists and about manipulation and about parental gaslighting. So I do have those videos for you guys to watch. So please feel free to do that. And also, please feel free to subscribe, because that's the only way I'm going to get out there. And it's the only way I'm going to get to my next goal of 5,000. I was hoping to do so by the end of the year, but I'm not going to put that pressure on myself. But anyway, back to here, the therapy and the medication when they don't fix the problem. Let me go back to that example I was giving you. Let's say Nick explodes and destroys the outside house, like the guest house. They might have been thinking, and again, this is speculation, but just given in a, let's say we had Jane and John Doe, and this was their story, I would say rationalization could be occurring where eventually, it's just cycle after cycle after cycle. And I mean, they're 70 and 78 years old. I'm sure it gets tiring at some point too. So what they start doing is, not them personally, but what you start doing is you start to rationalize, and you start to say things like, look, I know he destroyed Outback before, but he never like broke anything in this house, in the big house, and he would never, do that to us. Or I know that he's punched a hole in the wall, but he's never punched us. So I'm just giving examples. I'm not saying this is what happened here. I'm giving you an example of how we overlook red flags, or why we rationalize some of the red flags. So it's almost a survival technique, right? It's like, this is my way of surviving in my environment, because I still have responsibilities, and maybe I still have other kids, or maybe I have work and school or friendships and, a relationship, just so on and so forth. So it's exhausting, right? And people start rationalizing, and the problem is by not seeing those red flags. Back to what I'm saying from the beginning, in this case, so bringing it back to this case, whatever those red flags were, whatever the thought process was, I feel as though that, and again, this is just my own hypothesis for this, I feel that we're going to see that, because I remember, and I'm making a connection again, that Rob Reiner in his one interview says, and I've talked about this whole time, about how he didn't think that the playing hardball was the right thing to do. And that at first he trusted anyone who had a degree and a desk and listened to what they said. So that said to me that I trusted psychologists before. I trusted, maybe this is where Explore Core is coming in with this at. I trusted you. I trusted the system, and you guys failed us. And, so now we're going to do it our way. And by doing it their way, what winds up happening is, unfortunately, and nobody expects them to know this, but what winds up happening is, if he does have other mental illness, such as schizophrenia, where you could be experiencing hallucinations and delusions. We see detachment in a lot of his interviews, where you see him. I mean, and I encourage you guys to look at other interviews, or to look at my live stream from last night. We see the interviews. I even put in the description of last night, I think it's like 28 minutes or something is where, or 23 minutes is where we go right to this case. So if you just like click on it in the description, it takes you right there. But I think you guys should go back and even watch that if you haven't seen it yet. It's interesting. So so to end that, I think what happens is you detach from the person, and now they have their own fantasies without you knowing about it. And there are those red flags, right? So when they're flipping out, or when they have that explosion, you might not see the precipitating event the same way you might if you're trying to hold accountability for all of the issues that arise. That's all I'm saying.
Successfully moderated.
That make any sense? Hopefully that made sense.
But the genetic person who's got in their blood, I don't think they can really moderate. It's very difficult. You know?
No, I don't think they can.
I have some very, very specific questions.
We're gonna tell some stories at some point. Though.
Maybe
Dopey Nation.
Maybe we will, and maybe we won't.
Yeah.
Because this 32 minutes just.
I were locked in the chamber, but go ahead.
No. Because we're gonna get to a story then. I do not want to afterwards, after the appearance.
Yeah.
Because I feel.
All right, I'm trying to get.
They really appreciated what we were doing,
and come on.
We've been trying to get the East Side Crackhead on the show.
He's for
3 years and in recovery, and have tried harm reduction for ourselves and failed. I get very angry at him because it's just about it's me and him, and like we've both failed. I've failed trying to just smoke weed. You know,
and it's also different. I'm pursuing a doctorate in clinical psych, so like I need to
gotta do it.
I need to see like a larger perspective, you know, even though I know it doesn't work for me. So sometimes
I wonder how it worked out for him. I hope it did.
We get lost in translation where like for me, you know that I don't support it because I know it doesn't work and I've tried it.
And for me,
he's open to hearing.
He knows that it's so much better for somebody to not be on a lethal substance and be happy and pursuing self-actualization, like he said.
Wow, you guys. So this Chris then uses the topic of self-actualization to like rationalize harm reduction, and he's the one, if you're just joining, that dies after, I don't know how long after, but when we get to the last episode at the end, this Chris person, this friend of theirs eventually dies. And when you're listening to the podcast, I was under the impression that like he would be 20 years sober type thing. So but the truth is relapse is a part of recovery, but also what often leads to someone's death, because somebody might get off of drugs. That drug might leave their system, and then they use, and even if they use half of what they usually use, that half could be a lethal amount because their body, their tolerance went down.
For me, like, let's say I got to smoke a joint tonight. I wouldn't run to Mexico and shoot meth or anything. I would just be like, I'm gonna get high tomorrow. I'm gonna get stoned tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I am a fucking devout stoner. Like devout.
Yeah.
Like if I smoke weed, I wouldn't enjoy the weed as much as I should, because all I'd be thinking about is how I could get it tomorrow.
But if you were on a rooftop and you smoked a joint and you never in your life had heard a thing, oh, I took one hit and I went to Mexico and the thing. If you just smoked a joint and you had no preconceived notions, I don't think you do anything the next. You just do what you wanted because.
But you know what I would want to do the next day? Just smoke weed. I love weed.
You're already saying that you would want to do that.
He's saying it's your mindset,
right? But it's my experience. It's not about. It's not about any of the 12-step stuff. It's like 12-step stuff is like a fucking.
Well, we drink and we use essentially because we like the effects it has upon us.
But weed and
so
me,
you like the getting high, and then you want to get high tomorrow.
But it's like me. It's like now, every night when I'm walking home, I buy a bar of dark chocolate. And every night I eat the bar of dark chocolate, and I say to myself, I can't wait till tomorrow night when I can have my dark chocolate. And it used to be every night. Then the harm.
See, I'm the opposite. I'll buy the bar of chocolate, and I'll be like, tomorrow I'm not going to have any chocolate. But then I'll fucking get chocolate the next day.
And then you beat yourself up and say, I can't believe I did the thing I said I wasn't going to do.
And I'll do that every day.
Yeah. But no, fuck that. Chris.
So the interesting thing here that I just picked up on here is that the guy, Chris, knows himself, and he knows that if he smokes that joint, that's going to lead to heroin. He says that. The other guy also feels that if he does something, that's going to lead to active addiction again, which is why he stays away from it. He's the one that's studying psychology. And I think that we just saw a window into the way that Nick thinks, in him saying that he would smoke the joint thinking that tomorrow he wasn't going to smoke. However, waking up tomorrow and seeking, which is addiction, right? So, but do you see like the difference in, insight on their own addictions.
Chris doesn't buy the bar of dark chocolate. Chris buys the fucking half-gallon of ice cream. He's like, I can't believe I ate the whole half-gallon.
I ate a whole half-gallon the other day. Not a pint, half fucking gallon.
Well, that's harm reduction, is it not?
Yeah, it is in a way, yeah.
Well, I used to eat a whole bag of Tate's cookies.
I'm telling you, Nick is so smart. He just said that's harm reduction, is it not? It is. So somebody said in the chat before, whether it's there's different addictions like gambling, food. There's so many different types of things that people can find themselves, addicted to. And I would agree that is harm reduction there. So by eating a gallon of ice cream, it made him feel better in the moment, which substituted for the drug. But then you could have somebody else say, okay, but isn't it better to eat ice cream than it is to do heroin? And you know what I mean? So I see both of the angles.
And I went to 7-Eleven and they sold cookies by the 3. So I started to do that. And then the doctor told me my cholesterol was too high because I'm getting old. And that's when I switched to dark chocolate.
So it's all about switching from milk to dark chocolate.
Should we change paces and get some stories out of 20 times? But he's one of the 2.
I was not devout. I would date and drink because I don't drink. I'm barely. Met anybody that's been to more than you?
Yes.
And
I've met someone.
When you tell them a figure higher than 10, they go, oh, okay. No, but you really have gone
We're talking about how many times they've been in rehab.
on each and every time, and it's been, terrible.
Yeah.
But we went to the same one, I think.
Yes.
In New Jersey.
I've mentioned it before in episode 3. I'm going to let you tell a story, but I'm going to recap.
I won't say.
Alina Lodge, of course.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I said the name.
One of our episodes is called Dodge the Lodge.
Yeah.
Oh.
So there's a saying in AA, in the rehab circles, which I'd always heard was dodge the lodge. So anyways, I went to jail in California, and part of the condition of my release was I needed to complete a year of rehab. And so they let me go to New Jersey to go to Alina Lodge because it's like the relapsers rehab.
Yeah.
When I was there, it was like 1 year minimum, no coffee, no cigarettes, coat and tie to dinner, can't look at the women.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Same shit, you had all that. So anyways, while I was there was like aerobics class. You couldn't exercise. I heard you can now. There was aerobics class twice a week.
There were 3 treadmills when I was there.
Oh, really?
That was the aerobic. That was the, yeah.
I had tea. Was tea there? Bald guy?
Seca, whatever that not decaffeinated coffee was.
Senka.
Senka.
Oh, yeah. Just pounding Senka.
Yeah, it's going crazy.
So anyways, I was there. I'll just tell you the story real quickly. So I was there, and I said I couldn't go to aerobics class because my ankles were fucked up, which was sort of true. No, because it was before my ankles, because I had broke my neck when I was younger, which was true. I broke my neck, but I could have done the aerobics class. And so I would sit with all the other old invalids who couldn't do anything. We're supposed to just read the big book by ourselves. But I broke into the kitchen, stole orange juice, stole sugar packets one at a time, and stole fruit. And I learned in jail how to make Pruno. So I started making homemade alcohol at the rehab, right? So I made the first batch, we got wasted. Then I made the second batch, me and this other kid, and we got wasted, we got caught. And I had a suspended prison sentence. If I fucked up and didn't complete the conditions of my release, I was supposed to go to prison for up to 10 years. So they found it. You're immediately in trouble. It's so strict there.
Yeah,
and they're going to call the cops. So I just fucking book it, right?
Wow.
I just take off.
And they have your ID, too.
They have everything. They have
Oh my gosh, this is a crazy story.
everything. I'm literally in a button-up shirt and khakis and loafers.
Yeah.
And I fucking book it, and I had a windbreaker too. And I fucking book it. I sleep in the woods for a day because I think the cops were coming after me. End up waving someone down.
This is such an important part. I think they talk here about the paranoia that can occur from drug abuse, and we're almost towards the end of this.
Down on the side of the road, telling him my girlfriend kicked me out. They drive me to the next town over, and I call this woman that I used to date from California, who's 15 years older than me. She wires me money. I take a bus to New York City, end up staying in Harlem, breaking crack down and shooting crack.
That's where all of his stories end up.
Yeah, they always end up in Harlem.
Breakdown, shooting crack in Harlem.
Yeah. So then, should I just tell them the mountain blast thing real quick?
Sure.
Because that's okay. So I was walking around Harlem. This is I've been doing this for 2 or 3 days. I keep telling my ex I'm going to use the money to get a flight, and she sends me more money, and then I just keep getting high in Harlem. And so I like
High in Harlem.
yeah. So I'm like walking around and I see this white guy. You know, it's Harlem Everyone's Black. So there's a white guy walking around. He's like walking like really fucking weird, like this. He's like, for the Dopey Nation, I'm kind of like waving my arms.
He's waving
flowing.
his arms.
Yeah, I'm waving my.
We'll call it fancy walking.
It's like he's walking around like this, and he's all weird. And I go up to him like, dude, like, what are you on? And he had GHB, and I'd never.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'd never tried GHB before, and I was like,
I never did GHB.
I was like, let me get.
So you guys could go back and listen to the story. He winds up drinking the GHB. He winds up ending up in a hospital where he wakes up. And the thing is that when he wakes up and comes to, he realizes that his Gatorade bottle of GHB was still in the room with him. But they said that he dumped it down the toilet.
Eyeball, dude.
Oh, I'm going highball.
And I haven't heard anything that I want to hear yet. Now that
But please go back and watch it.
So I plan to meet this woman I've never met.
All right, this is the last story. So this is the end of the episode, and this is the last story that he was referring to in the beginning of the live. I'm kind of glad I did it the way that I did because of the whole Chris thing. So rest in peace to Chris.
40 years old,
and rest in peace to Mr. and Mrs. Reiner.
Keep in mind, I'm.
she was 40?
Yeah, I was like 18 at the time.
Were you having an eyeball romance in there?
No, that was the thing. He was just like, maybe I'd go over, do some blow with her. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I show up literally like out of
He's talking about a girl that he met in rehab.
a movie.
Wait, I'm sorry. Where are we right now? You show up where?
In Manhattan.
I show up.
Okay, so you got kicked out.
I got from New Jersey to New York, and I was out here for about 6 months.
How'd you get in contact with her? Note from rehab?
At Facebook or something.
Okay.
Like you got in contact with me.
Yeah.
I show up and there's a Coke dealer outside of the apartment already, and they're doing.
Who'd have known that it'd be that easy to get in touch with him? He said Facebook the same way you got in touch with me.
And I'm like, could this actually be happening right now? And so the guy's like super sketched out. He leaves. We go back up into the apartment. She's railing lines of cocaine, and I didn't really want to get too intimate with her and make out with her. So one thing led to another. So we got in the shower, and can we talk about this guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. We can talk about everything besides.
Dude, I tell a story.
I'm just kidding.
I tell a story where I was shooting meth and the guy was begging to let him suck my dick
Trigger warning.
while I was watching porn, saying no and jerking off.
Okay, perfect.
So you can say anything.
Well,
You
that's
can
awesome.
say anything.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm fingering her in the shower, and she's really sort of small, and I guess
I don't know why he tells the story.
I pulled my finger out, and there was something on the tip of it, and it was.
So anyway, he winds up telling about, I don't even know that I should play this part, but you guys go back and watch it. He talks about how he does all this stuff with her and then leaves, and he didn't do the cocaine with her that night. And I don't know what the point of telling the story was, but I think they were just sharing stories here. So let's sum this all up, you guys. Oh, wait, wrong one. Let's sum this up, you guys. Okay, so do we have any questions? I think that everyone, when did Chris end up on a live? I'm not sure. I didn't even notice it until today. It was towards the end of the episode, and I don't know why I didn't pick up on it the first time. I did have a few more slides here. I don't know if I should pull them up. Well, maybe I should. There's like 3 left. All right, here we go. Okay. All right, so let's just go over these last few slides. I'll sum it up. So going to the next slide. Okay, so we have the context, you guys. So over here, we have, hold on, where do I have my notes? There we go. Okay, so with family systems and chronic stress, that this can create conflict cycles. So we see that people are reporting that there was a long history of substance use struggles and repeated attempts at treatment. He even talks about how he tries to attempt treatment 18 times and that he stops counting after that. And family narratives in media can explain the context, but they're not the same as courtroom evidence. So I think we need to, siphon through what's considered hearsay as of right now and what's the evidence. But we do hear hearsay that at Conan O'Brien's party, the mom and dad asked if they could take him. because they're like concerned. They get the okay, they get the okay, and he shows up in like a sweatshirt and like jeans or something, and the mom and dad, it was like a formal type Christmas party. So I know that caused some problems. They apparently allegedly get into a fight that night, like an argument, so much so that other people at the party say that they overheard it. The thing that I found most interesting was, if true, it's reported that Bill Hader, who I love from SNL, he used to be in SNL, that apparently he was having like a private conversation, and Nick apparently came over and interrupted and said like, "Are you famous?" or something like that. As to which they responded to him like, "We're in a private conversation." And apparently they said that he like detached him. Like they said like they reported it as being strange that he just stares and then just takes off. And I wonder if that could have been psychosis. So, or if it was untreated schizophrenia, I'm not sure. So I'd be interested to see. They're the things that I'm seeing, in my opinion. Again, just based off of my own experience. So family narrative. So, okay, then we have addiction does not equal violence. So most people with substance use disorder are not violent. So the risk rises with specific cofactors. So we have the comorbid disorders here, for example. And then tonight's goal was to understand the dynamics without turning tragedy into a diagnosis bingo card. So, and again, that was my whole thing. I don't want to diagnose anyone here. I just want to bring to light what we see in the news so far, and what I found so far to be interesting and relevant information. So over here, there are different phases. Okay, so first we have, not different phases, like a different path, rather, is what I should have said. So first we have the arraignment. So charges will be formally read, the plea will be entered, and bail issues will be addressed. That is going to be for January 7th. It got pushed back. And then there's going to be discovery. So the defense and prosecution exchange evidence and motions start. So they have to let each other know what each other has. And then we have the preliminary hearings and all the different motions. And remember, we saw a lot of that in the Bryan Kohberger case, and disputes over evidence and admissibility, search warrants, statements, they're all going to come into play here. And then possible outcomes. There could be a trial, we could have a plea agreement, or dismissal of some counts. This is rare, but it's possible. So I felt the need to add it. Then we have, where did my note go? Here it goes. Okay, then we have over here, I encourage you to share any resources you may have in chat. But we need to look at media literacy. So this is where my entire dissertation focuses on, is media literacy. So disinformation, stuff like that. How does media messages affect identity development? And how do we combat against this using media literacy? So just like we have reading literacy, there's media literacy. We have to make sure that we're looking at evidence, but we also have to know the difference between, we need to know the differences between what's speculation, what do we really see. But even things like, I would encourage everybody to try to be as media literate as possible, even knowing things and teaching our children things like about bots and stuff like that, and about how I know, just being on YouTube, that, I mean, it always surprises me. I'm like, there's like 90% of viewers that don't subscribe, that watch, and I'm like, I don't understand. And most of them are women, and I'm like, I don't understand. Just hit subscribe, like support another woman. I don't get it. But then I think about it, and a lot of it goes back to the stuff that we see in media, in my opinion. So I hope that we can come through some of those things. With that being said, please make sure you hit subscribe. Okay, so, okay. Oh, I had different things, but we already talked about all this stuff, so I'm not going to ask you guys to put questions in the chat. And then compassion without excuses is where I would end this with. So here we have two things can be true. So a family can struggle for years and a violent act is still fully unacceptable. Okay. So I think that that is important. We call that cognitive dissonance. It's thinking about thinking about one thing in two different ways. An example I give in class sometimes is like when you're a kid and you're waiting by the door for mom or dad to come pick you up on Saturday and they don't show up. And this is like the 7th time they don't show up, but you still wait by the door and you still love that parent, even though you hate that parent for not showing up. It's cognitive dissonance. So here, two things can also be true. A family can struggle for years and a violent act can still, is still fully unacceptable. And then holding empathy for human suffering without erasing accountability. So we were talking about this earlier about, I forget who asked, but do I want people to be empathetic? I think there's a way to be empathetic for suffering, for human suffering in general, without saying that we shouldn't be held accountable. So accountability needs to happen here. And unfortunately, I wish it would have happened, not by the parents, not like they didn't know any better. So I'm just saying, but I wish that there were things that could have happened, shoulda, coulda, woulda. There needs to be accountability now, though, because these were two amazing individuals who did a lot for society that are no longer here. And now they have other kids that are going to be traumatized for the rest of their lives. It's just unimaginable. Avoid harassment of relatives, neighbors, and anyone that is involved. And if you're personally triggered by family violence, take breaks and reach out for support. That's one of my most important things that I say here. I teach family violence. This past semester, I just finished my grades for that. And I always tell them that there too. Here goes some of the sources for this PowerPoint that I used. So again, these are just where I got the information. So like People, ABC News, the governor's office, the Guardian, and Reuters. And that is, I like to end with that so that people see that I did my due diligence and made sure that I added my sources. Okay. And I would like to thank, not that they know, but ChatGPT for helping me turn my bland white with black writing PowerPoint slides into whatever that was. It was a little bit more exciting than what I usually come up with. I'm so used to just getting things on the PowerPoint that, oh my gosh, Cuff You, I have so many, all the PowerPoints that I ever do. I could send them all to you. Absolutely. Yes, you guys, if anybody wants access to my PowerPoint slides, I could put them there. I could also, I have a Patreon that I'm not that it's like for a subscription type thing, but I think I could post them there, like a free subscription type thing where you can also access them there. So I'll look into that as well. But that is a good idea, Cuff You. That way people can access my PowerPoints. You guys are more than welcome to use them. I even have my notes that I write down for the show that I could always add as well if anybody's interested in that. And yeah, so I am going to wrap this up. It's been 2 hours and 17 minutes. I can't believe it. I thank you guys for joining me today. I appreciate you so very much. Thank you so much, Kim, for gifting a Mind Behind True Crime membership. If anybody wants to be a member of our family, we say we put the fun in dysfunctional. Know that it's only $1.99. I make sure that I keep it affordable so that anybody can join. And if somebody really needs to join, I say this all the time, but you can't, you let me know. And if I have to Venmo you the $2 for you to do it, I so would do that and not tell anybody. I want everybody to feel like they could be a part of something. And that's the whole point of this community. So with that being said, I hope you all have a fabulous Thursday and look out. Later on, I talked to Mark the Shark the other day, and he's got so many interesting things with the David case. And I didn't talk to him today, but I think I'm going to text him after this. I told him that that Thursday night tonight, if he does a David live, that I jump on. So look out for that. Mark the Shark. Go subscribe to Mark the Shark. He was I think he was, oh no, he was my second mod, but him and Truth were my first two mods. So Mark the Shark's been around since the beginning for me. So go check him out. And I might be there. If not, maybe tomorrow night I'll be back on Friday night. So everybody look out for that. Make sure you subscribe and ring the bell so that you get the notification. And I appreciate all of you. And thank you, mods, for coming here. Harlot, I hope you feel better. Thank you to all the people that shared your amazing stories. Shut up, Cuff You. Cuff You. Thank you. Thank you, Cuff You. That was so kind of you. Cuff You, you always... Thank you. I appreciate you. I wonder who they went to. Let me see if I can find out real quick. Let me see. I'm so excited. I get so excited over the littlest things. If somebody doesn't stay for this, I get it. But I do think it's important to see who it is that are our newest members. So let's see. I have to go to my live. And all right, here we go. Let's see who it was. So we have, all right, here we go. Okay, so we have our newest members are KK, Kay Capelli, Linda, you're a member. I'm so excited. Jerry Lynn, Paige My Rick, Yasmin Lewis, and CC Legal Canada. Welcome, you guys. I'm so excited. Yes, that was so generous of you. I appreciate you so very much. And I wonder who got it earlier. Let me see if I can go back and see. It's not letting me go back that far. Oh, that is so amazing, you guys. Wait, let me see. Let me see something real quick. How do I do that? Oh, no. Oh, wait. Here we go. So where is it? Oh, I'm having a hard time with that. I'll do this tomorrow when we come on. I was going to give 5, but it's like it's not going to where it usually goes to. And that would just take me forever. But next time we come on, I will give 5 memberships. Thank you so much, Cuff You. I appreciate you so very much. Barbara Hall, my girl's here. Barbara Hall, you're going to have to catch us on the replay, girl. Thank you guys so much for being here. Barbara, thank you. Thank you for being you. Seriously, I mean that. You literally bring so much to my whole channel, and I appreciate you so very much. All of you, I appreciate you. Oh, they said they agree, Cuff You. You are amazing. Oh, look at the little emojis. How cute. All right, you guys, I'm going to let you go. You guys have an amazing night. I'll see you later. Mwah. Thank you again, you guys.